One of these Steam Decks is not like the others. Sure, one of them is OLED, but that's not what I'm talking about. One of them has a transparent shell, but that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about this. If you ask most Steam Deck users which part of the Steam Deck hardware is the worst experience, I'm sure you'd get a lot of different answers, but I think that one answer would come up way more often than any of the others, and that is the D-pad. Ever since the Steam Deck was released, I think the biggest complaint that people have had about the hardware, not the software, is that the D-pad was just really mushy feeling and not super accurate. You see, the D-pad and face buttons on the Steam Deck are membrane based, which means when you press a button, you squeeze this little rubber gasket underneath it. Then the daughter board of the Steam Deck detects that as an input. It works, but it's mushy. It's lame. It's really pretty bad. But what if Valve changed that and switched to tactile switches instead? It would make the system feel more responsive. It would reduce the travel for each of the buttons. They would fire off quicker and there would be no more mushy feeling. But Valve didn't do that. I did, using this $20 kit that I bought off Amazon. I will say that Valve deserves a huge shout out for making the Steam Deck so easy to mod or repair from an average user's perspective. Everything is labeled inside the deck, which makes mods like this ridiculously easy. You don't have to worry if you're pulling the right wire. Keep in mind that the kit for the LCD deck and OLED deck are different. This one is for the OLED deck, but I have links down below for both. Before I show you how to do this, I want to say two things. Number one, if you mess this up, I don't know how easy it would be to go back to the way it was before, because part of this process requires that you peel a flexible printed circuit off of your bumper module. After you do, it looks all curled up and the FCP is supposed to be flat. So if the mod doesn't work, I don't know if you can just stick this back on when you're done. Number two, some of you may have watched my 7-hour live stream where I disassembled the entire Steam Deck and rebuilt it inside a third-party transparent case. That mod was an absolute nightmare. This clicky button D-pad mod is on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is a joystick swap and 10 is the nightmare case swap. I would put this at around a 2. It's pretty easy. If you're going to do this, the kit comes with everything that you need, but the screwdriver that they send you is really tiny and I wouldn't want to use it. So you're going to need a T6 Torx screwdriver, as well as a spudger, some nice tweezers. There's links to everything in the description down below. And since this video doesn't have a sponsor, it would be awesome if you used my links to buy these parts if you decide to do this mod yourself. Now at this point, I have to admit something. I just lied to you. I said that this was a D-pad mod, but it's also a button mod as well. So we're going to be modding both parts. Let's get it started, and then we can test out the mod and see how well it holds up. First, you want to make sure that your battery is below 25%, just to be safe. Next, in order to be even safer, I'm going to put the Steam Deck into battery storage mode. In order to do this, shut down your Steam Deck by pressing Steam and then navigate down to the power button or the power menu and then the shutdown button. Next, once it's off, hold the volume up and press power to get into the BIOS. Navigate to the setup utility and then power and then battery storage mode. Go ahead and click confirm. Before we open the Steam Deck, check to make sure that you've removed your SD card if you have one. Otherwise, you will snap the SD card in half. I've almost done this multiple times, so double check. All right, now flip the Steam Deck over. I like to use a deck of cards so the Steam Deck will lay flat without putting pressure on the sticks. Let's remove these screws on the back. Now I'm going to use this spudger to crack open the case. This was actually easier to pull apart than the OLED than it was on the LCD deck. Now I need to disconnect this cable right here labeled CR and this wire labeled DB. Then I'm going to peel the CR cable back off of the shield and it's going to unveil this very tiny wire right here below the shield. Disconnect that one as well. Now I need to remove the shield. It has 2 screws which are labeled with these tiny little triangles. I love that Valve labeled all of the screws that you would use to take something off. It's awesome. Then I have to remove the shield and disconnect the battery. Next, I have to remove the triggers. I use the spudger to disconnect the tabs from their pegs. I have to be careful. I don't want to lose the spring, though the kit does come with extra springs just in case they get away from you. And now that the trigger is out of the way, I need to disconnect this cable labeled action. Now I have to take out these screws, which are a bunch of different sizes, and I didn't realize which ones were which when I took them out. Pay attention to the screw sizes you're taking it apart and where they go. I decided to disconnect the thumbstick board and took that out separately. Then I can take out the right bumper. When you pick this up, you might not see your button membrane. Remember to look underneath the bumper segment. I had to peel that off. Now I'm replacing it with a new one. Now I have to take off the original FPC from the bumper segment. It peels off pretty easily, but if you're having trouble getting it to pull off, use a heat gun in order to warm up the adhesive. Now I have to get the new flexible printed circuit and put it in. Luckily, Extreme Right labeled these so they're easy to tell apart. There are 2 pins and a hole in the center, making sure that they're all lined up, and then stick it down. Now I need to put the bumper section back in and line it up with the little pegs underneath. Also, make sure that the cable isn't underneath the bumper or you're going to have to take it all out again anyway. Now I'm going to put everything back together on that side. I put the screws back in, hopefully the right ones. Then I'll reconnect the action cable and my thumbstick cable. Now I'm going to move on to the D-pad. First, I have to remove the trigger, just like last time. Now I have to unhook the CL wire and the D-pad wire and the thumbstick wire, if you want to remove that separately like I'm going to. Next, I'll remove these 3 thumbstick screws and take the thumbstick out. Now I'm going to remove this daughter board, which has 4 screws. And then remove the bumper and its 3 screws. I'll remove this membrane and take the D-pad out. The kit comes with these little plastic doodads, which are supposed to make the D-pad not wear down the membrane quite as fast. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the back of the D-pad and then put the D-pad back in. Now I'll put the new membrane on top of it. Just like the other side, I have to remove the original FPC and replace it with the new FPC. Then I need to put everything back together. Now let's fire it up and test it out. If you put your Steam Deck in battery storage mode, it's not going to turn on until you plug it in. So plug it in and see how the buttons work. Every single press gives you a nice, satisfying click. I fired up Iron Meat, which is one of my favorite side-scroller Contra-likes, to see how this handles accidental diagonals. The way that this works is you press down on the D-pad and then move your thumb back and forth to see how often your character starts moving. The more that they move, the more accidental diagonals that you're going to get. I do find that if I push down hard on the D-pad, I get those accidental diagonals, but if I push just hard enough to activate it, then moving my thumb back and forth, it doesn't really do much. Either way, this is a huge improvement over the unmodded version, but I'm not done yet. Let's check out how well fighting games work. Here I am playing Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection to see how well I could do my special attacks, and it is insanely good. Both Hadoukens and Shoryukens were really easy to pull off with this D-pad, and there's no way I would ever want to go back to a mushy membrane-based D-pad or face buttons that I had before. Hell, even the menu and view buttons are super clicky. The only buttons that aren't clicky at this point are the Steam button and the quick access menu button. Overall, I am really happy with this mod. Pressing the buttons feels incredibly good. I handed these over to my wife and I asked her what she thought. She vastly preferred the clicky button mods over the originals. And even if it didn't feel better, it is more responsive. Thanks to the combination of less traveled in order to activate, you really feel the activation point, and then the clicky sound gives you that extra feedback that you actually nailed the input. But what do you guys think about this mod? Is it something that you're going to try, or is it too risky for you? Let me know in the comments section down below, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching, and stay rad.